Hi, everyone, and welcome back to week 9. This is our final week of SSP, and it's my pleasure to bring a bit of a tutorial together for you on personal mastery. Uh, Coincidentally, I believe, I think that this topic is actually a great way to end the course for us, and a chance for us to really look at not only where we are, but where we're going in terms of our degree pathway and all of the other things that we plan on doing post university. So before we begin, I'd like you to grab a couple of pieces of paper and a pen, something to write with and something to write on. For the tail end of this tutorial, we're going to do a bit of an exercise, and hopefully will help to unlock a little bit of reflective, not only reflection, but reflective action as we go forward with this semester and into next. So what is this lesson all about? What is this tutorial all about? Hopefully by the end of the tutorial, you'll have an understanding of what personal mastery is and why it is of benefit to you as a student. You'll begin to use, hopefully through this exercise, personal mastery in your own personal reflection and setting goals for oneself. I think that it's also an opportunity to link personal mastery and goal setting and setting appropriate goals and how they motivate us in life to achieve the things that we want. And then finally, thinking about it kind of going forward and into the future, how can this process be of benefit to you in not only your time here at UPEI or other institutions you move on to, but in all aspects of your life. So personal mastery was and is a concept that was developed by Peter Senge. He was an American systems scientist and a professor at MIT. He authored a book called The Fifth Discipline, The Art and Practice of the Learning Organization. And his whole focus is on asking individuals to examine what they want in life, and also calls on us to implement behaviors to achieve those particular goals. It essentially identifies where we are and where we want to be. And I reflected on this, and although I think that, on the surface, people look at that and say that that's simple, it requires a lot of us. It requires an honest reflection and a wanted desire to make changes in our lives to make sure that we achieve what we want to achieve. And sometimes where we are is quite far away from where we want to be in life. And it is up to us to develop the skills, to seek out the learning, the knowledge, but also to build the relationships that are needed to get from point A to point B. So this infographic actually displays 7 areas of constant growth for our life. When things are going well in one area, oftentimes they are going well in other areas as well. But it is about striking a balance. When we think about mastery of one's life or achieving specific goals, oftentimes we reflect on things like time, how to use our time most effectively. And we spent some time in this class talking about that. The relationships that we have, whether it be here at school, working with groups or working with peers, working with our professors, developing good and positive and healthy relationships with others, looking after our physical and our emotional well-being, and then again, striking a balance to make sure that all parts of our life are jiving and kind of moving along at the right pace with one another. So obviously, to kind of move through this personal mastery piece, we have to reflect on who we are. And we spent a great deal in this course talking about understanding oneself. And Jonathan Goat speaks about this when he says self-knowledge is best learned not by contemplation, but by action. So it's looking for, we cannot, we have to find a way to create action in our lives to be able to strive to do what is expected of us, to seek opportunities in order to discover exactly who we are and what we're made of. And I completely agree with this quote, and I thought it was important to share because oftentimes, um, in this course in particular, we've spoke a lot about reflection, but reflection is only one piece of the puzzle. Action is required of all of us in order to move that reflective piece, move where we see ourselves and where we want to be, to where we want to be. So this all takes a bit of an understanding of who we are, and obviously, we have to take a look at the passion that we have, the motivation behind who we are as learners, the needs that we have, the talents that we bring to the table, and be conscious of all of that in order to find our voice and to be part of something bigger in not necessarily just ourselves, but to be part of something bigger. And we're all members of the university community. You are all members of your classes. And so we take all of these things and we bring those to the table in all of the organizations and in all of the groups and in all of the relationships that we have. And we attempt to make those connections between classes. And I think that that's where we find our voice and we find our passion and we find our desire to move towards greater things for ourselves. So all of this, I think, begins, for me anyway, when I start to think about what I want out of life. Oftentimes I need to start with a SWOT analysis. And if you haven't seen this before, it's a very simple concept. Developing your strength or understanding what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what are the opportunities that lie ahead, and what are the things or the barriers, the threats that will get in the way of that. And so I would encourage you at some point to look at that exercise to determine, to be really honest about these things, because if you are honest about it, and you do kind of give yourself a true and meaningful reflection of how you see yourself, then obviously setting goals is much easier. It's a much easier task. So as part of that SWOT analysis, there also is a need to go through another process to look at, and I mean, this is something that's down the road after you've done a SWOT analysis, is to look at how do I strengthen my strengths? What are some things that I can do to make sure that they're even better than they actually are? How do I correct the weaknesses? Because understanding and reflecting what your weaknesses are is one stage. The next stage is to try to figure out how do I move those weaknesses to, down the continuum of strength. How to utilize the opportunities that are in front of me, and how do I prevent the things that are getting in the way? What can I do to make sure that before these threats become a real problem in my life, in terms of my goals, my motivation, how do I prevent those from getting in the way? So vision is the second part of personal mastery. And, I just throw out these kinds of questions like, what will you be remembered for when you finish a task? Do you ever think about this? What will you be remembered for after you finished a volunteer commitment or your degree at UPEI? And that's really, what do you see about yourself? Vision enables us to actually go beyond that autobiography that we've written for ourselves, to rise above what we have in our own memory. And it really starts to ask us, demand of us to ask the question of what matters most in how we see ourselves. And maybe not necessarily worried about what other people see in us, but perhaps for ourselves, what do we see? What matters most in how we view ourselves and where we're going in life? So vision is seeing with the mind's eye. It is, taking a look at the credible, the realistic future that we have, and using what Albert Einstein would say is imagination, and it being the most important, it's being more important than knowledge, is really looking toward the future and having some realistic goals for ourselves. Vision will allow us to dream, to think about all our hopes and our wants and our desires in life, and give us a purpose, a focus in life to move forward. So this brings us to our exercise, personal mastery. So if you see the screen, of course, you'll see that personal mastery is made up of our current reality, which we've kind of talked about, that reflective piece, and our vision of the future, recognizing that we want something out of life that's probably further than where we are right now. So if you think about the creative tension that's between the two of those things, like an elastic band, if you pull the elastic band too far, we move ourselves towards a possibility of stress and burnout. And if there's not enough tension, we will see little or no improvement between our current reality and our vision. So we have to find the correct tension, the correct amount of skill and motivation and drive that we bring to the table to ensure that we get from that current reality to where we want to be in life. So what I'd like you to do is get your piece of paper ready. I want to just tell you that personal mastery is about choices. It's about challenging yourself without blaming your environment. It's about allowing ourselves to be empowered, and to act on the world instead of letting the world act on us. And it's about committing ourselves to where we want to be in life. So step number one is very simple. I want you to write your personal vision. Think about yourself as a picture. What would your life look like when you shut your eyes? What does it look like? What do you really want out of life? And what would make you happy in life? So your personal vision is sort of where you want to be down the road. So think about it, but in terms of closing your eyes and thinking about where you want to be. We'll just take a minute for you to do that. So thank you. You've taken a minute, hopefully, and you have closed your eyes and you've really thought about, where do I want to be? And so some of those examples might be where I see myself in 5 years' time. Is it in a career pathway? Is it with do I have a family? Am I traveling? Have I graduated? These are all questions that we have to ask ourselves in terms of where we see ourselves. And it can go beyond the 5 year mark. It can be, well into the future. The next thing I'd like you to do on a separate piece of paper is to write down your current reality. Where are you right now? I want you to take the time to reflect about where you currently are in life. Be honest about that. Who you are as a student, as an individual, think about that. Let's take about 30 seconds for that. So I know I didn't give you a lot of time to do that, but you can take some more time on your own. This is about recognizing where you are. Now, if you were to put those two things together, side by side, how far apart are they? Reflect on that. Reflect about what is needed to get from your current reality to your personal vision of where you want to be. That's what personal mastery is all about. So think about this in terms of what goals you have developed. Thank you very much.